Desmos has a lot of different templates for activities. Teachers can go through and create an activity for their classroom. They also have this really cool custom feature where teachers can go in and completely create their own activity from scratch. So we're just going to go through that and create activity to show you how to do it. So if you click this little custom tab over here and you go to the top and create and click on new activity, you'll be prompted at first to name your activity. So we're going to look at functions. So let's do identifying functions. So if we start building, then you'll be prompted to go through each screen and decide what you want to do for that screen. So what activity you want that screen to do. So let's start by adding a title. This will be activity 1. And say this one we want to graph. We want to graph a function. We want students to determine if it is a function or not. So we could do y equals x, right? And then we could have students input. So we could ask them, is this graph a function? And students will be prompted to answer. So if you look at the preview, and this is exactly what students will see on their end, they'll look at the graph, they won't be given the equation, and they'll be able to answer the question, yes, this is a function, and share that with the class. So if we look at the next slide, say we want to do a different activity for activity 2. Say we want our students to actually draw the graph of a function. So they could actually go through and sketch. So we want our background to be a graph so students could actually kind of see the grid, and we'll give a note that prompts them to please sketch the graph of a function. And so if we now preview that, students will be prompted and given this screen where they could go through, click this tab to make their line straight, and draw a function. Now, say for activity 3, we want to do something a little different. Say we want them to do a card sort where they have to look at different things and sort them into piles, determining if it's a function or not a function. So we could start by adding a text that says function, and another one that says not a function, and kind of add different things that they would have to determine between to see if it's a function or not. So say the first thing you want is a table of values. So say we had a picture of that, and we could import that right in as a card from your files on your computer. So if you want to put a graph in there, you could do that. You just click to edit and say we have the graph y equals x. Say that's done. And then say we want to actually write an equation. So we would click this little f of x and do y equals x. And so then now, if you do preview, these will be the cards students will be prompted to kind of go through and create their different piles where they could just drag and say this is a function. So they would put those two together. And this one's a function, and so on. So now say we want to add another one that is a marble slide. So we looked at marble slides and the templates that Desmos provides, but say you want to create your own, and you could do that. So in this case, say we're now looking at the graph y equals x, correct? And say we wanted to have the stars to go along that graph. So say we wanted one at 5, 5, 0, 0, and -5, -5. Now, say you want your ball, if I zoom out here a little bit, to be at 10, 10. So now, if you launch that, the ball will go right down and hit all those stars. But now say you want the students to come up with that equation to be able to get all those stars. So what you could do for that, you can add a folder. And down here, we could do y equals x. And then you could hide that from students by simply dragging that into the folder. So now if we look at the student preview, and if we hide that graph, if you look at the student preview, they won't be prompted with that graph, that equation. So they would have to go in and figure that out for themselves. So as you can see, there are a bunch of different activities you can do on Desmos to provide an activity in your class. So then if you say this was the end of it, you want to click next, you could provide a link for anyone you would like to share with. And now you could publish it to that link and publish it to your teacher.desmos account. And so it will be here. You'll be able to do a student preview of everything, the whole activity, everything that they would see. And then you're able to create that class code right here to launch to your students. So it's a great activity, great feature of Desmos to go in and completely create an activity of your very own, which then you could click on these 3 bars and share the activity with colleagues and so on.